Today on NewsWatch, Hurricane Matthew barreling toward Florida. Nearly 2 million East Coast residents racing to evacuate as the storm picks up steam. Plus, CBN News goes one-on-one with the governor of North Carolina. Hear how he's handling the fallout from the state's bathroom battles. And meet a modern-day band of brothers and see how they're defending their homes from the horrors of ISIS. And thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Hurricane Matthew is threatening the U.S. today after battering Haiti, Cuba, and the Bahamas. Now, millions of Americans are being told to prepare for the monster storm with mass evacuations. Here's Charlene Aaron.
Florida is preparing for what could be the worst storm to hit the Sunshine State in years. Hurricane Matthew had already claimed 25 lives as it slammed into Haiti.
I've lost everything. The water took it.
In Cuba, towns were leveled, and the storm badly battered the Bahamas overnight. Matthew strengthened early today as it crawled towards the U.S., with winds more than 120 miles per hour, and with about 2 million people being encouraged to evacuate before it arrives. Those evacuations are underway in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, and residents are being forced to choose leave or stock up. More than 1 million people have been warned to get out of their homes.
Get out now. It could be the decision between life and death.
South Carolina is expected to evacuate 500,000 people. Traffic there has been bumper to bumper as residents leave.
We want you to evacuate. We do not want you to stay.
Many riding out the storm are scrambling for supplies, food, and bottled water.
I've already been to 3 gas stations that have shut down because they're out of gas.
We've been waiting about 30, 40 minutes, just getting some plywood.
We wanted to get batteries, but they're out of batteries.
Matthew is also making for difficult travel. American Airlines has canceled all flights into Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach. Preparations are being made up the East Coast to North Carolina.
It's a huge waiting game because, as you can tell from the hurricane tracks, they've changed almost every single day this week, and they will continue to change until the storm either makes landfall or goes back out to sea.
CBN's Operation Blessing is already on the ground in Columbia, South Carolina, and Ocala, Florida. Plans are underway to set up a mobile kitchen and help people with cleanup efforts after the storm passes. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
And for more details on Hurricane Matthew's track and where it's expected to impact the U.S., we turn now to our friends at AccuWeather.
Well, Hurricane Matthew has strengthened 125 miles per hour, only 5 miles away from a Category 4 hurricane, and I believe there's room for Matthew to strengthen a little bit as we go through the morning hours. The movement northwest at 12 miles per hour, that's significant because it is that northwest move that will be taking Matthew right toward Florida over the next 24 hours. Category 4 hurricane today. Then as it approaches the Florida coast, we're easily going to see Category 3 status here. We're probably talking about winds anywhere from 115 to 125. This will get very close to Fort Lauderdale Friday morning, and then I think we're looking at a landfall, if not south of Cape Canaveral, over Cape Canaveral Friday morning, and then a move right along the coast of Florida before it starts to veer away from the South Carolina and North Carolina coast. Of course, the life-threatening impacts are going to be many across eastern Florida. Flooding, rain, damaging wind, coastal flooding, life-threatening seas. You can see how this extends northward throughout the day, Thursday night, and Friday, right up the coast. Some specifics: a quick 4 to 8 inches of rain from West Palm Beach all the way up towards Savannah on northbound toward Wilmington. We could be looking at 8 to 16 inches of rain, and the wind gusts that we're looking at with Matthew as it comes up the Florida and Georgia coast is frightening. Expect widespread damage.
We'll have updates ongoing on the hurricane at cbnnews.com, and we'll have an interview about the storm with NASA on Friday right here on CBN NewsWatch, so be sure to check back with us right here. Vice presidential candidates Mike Pence and Tim Kaine hit the road Wednesday, claiming victory in their debate this week.
You know, what I can tell you is from where I sat, Donald Trump won the debate. Donald Trump's vision to make America great again won the debate.
The debate was a little feisty.
I mean, I gotta admit, I am Irish.
After hitting a fundraiser in Washington, D.C., Hillary Clinton is now off the campaign trail preparing for the next presidential debate on Sunday. Donald Trump is still on the campaign trail, and he praised Pence as a good Christian before reading a verse from the Bible. While visiting a Christian school in Las Vegas, Trump also warned Clinton will endanger religious liberty across America if she wins this election. Meanwhile, former President Bill Clinton put his wife's campaign on damage control this week, the former president calling Obamacare, quote, the craziest thing in the world.
You've got this crazy system where all of a sudden 25 million more people have health care, and then the people are out there busting it sometimes 60 hours a week, wind up with their premiums doubled and their coverage cut in half. It's the craziest thing in the world.
Hillary Clinton's press secretary called her husband's statement shorthanded and said he has supported Obamacare since 2010. Donald Trump, on the other hand, thanked the former president for his critique of Obamacare, saying, quote, at least he's honest. North Carolina is a key battleground state in the 2016 presidential election and also a hotbed of many controversial issues. No one knows this better than the state's Republican governor, Pat McCrory, who is up for re-election this year. He has been especially targeted for his state's bathroom bill. In an exclusive interview with CBN's Jenna Browder, McCrory explains why this is a time for Christians and others with a silent majority to speak up.
Tonight, a blockbuster clash is brewing over transgender rights and North Carolina's so-called bathroom law.
Breaking tonight, an explosion of violence on the streets.
Protests that erupted in Charlotte, North Carolina.
It's a state making national news.
The shooting of Keith Lamont Scott has shaken the city of Charlotte.
North Carolina, an epicenter of emotional issues felt across the United States.
What do we do? Stand up right now! What do we do? Stand up!
Normally, you go home to escape it all. But even here at the governor's mansion in North Carolina, Governor Pat McCrory can't escape the headlines.
Everyone comes up to me and go, Governor, you must have incredible thick skin when people say pretty cruel things about you and even make threats. And the fact is, I don't.
One of those issues, the so-called bathroom bill. Earlier this year, House Bill 2 became law, requiring North Carolinians to use the public bathrooms and locker rooms corresponding to the sex on their birth certificate, not their gender identity. McCrory and conservatives say it protects women and girls from sexual predators. Liberals say the law discriminates against transgender people.
There is immense pressure to repeal House Bill 2. Have you ever considered doing this?
No, not based upon the concept of changing the definition of gender. And House Bill 2 is actually irrelevant now because the federal government has stepped in and ordered the definition of gender to be based upon expression and identity. So this whole focus on one bill is really a diversion, and it's probably going to be re-changed after the election. It's now a national issue, and the national media has no idea, the people in the public have no idea, that this issue started by the left in the city of Charlotte by a very liberal mayor and by the attorney general that I'm running against.
McCrory is up for re-election, and it's a tight race. His opponent, Roy Cooper, is using House Bill 2 to drum up support.
We've seen no leadership from our governor on this issue. He has doubled down on this bad law as our state has taken hit after hit.
It's a major change in our moral fabric, and it deserves debate and deserves discussion, but there's even a lot of pressure on corporations.
Apple and PayPal are among the corporate giants backing out of the state, though not entirely. McCrory says a number are still quietly pursuing opportunities in North Carolina. Groups like the NBA and NCAA have also packed up some of their operations.
Well, you've got to draw the line somewhere, and the entertainment world is very hypocritical on this also. George Clooney, who I love as an actor, after he criticized North Carolina's bill, he went to China to promote his movie. China, whose human rights records are horrible.
How much influence do evangelicals have in North Carolina, and how important are they to your battle you face here?
One thing I've told a lot of people is we've got to have the silent majority to quit whispering. They talk too softly about their support, and they need to speak out now, because what's happening in America and what's happening in North Carolina, the only people you hear from in the media And the only people you hear from protesting in the street or on our universities are people of the very far left who disagree with people of faith in many, many issues. But we are not hearing from the silent majority. They're too quiet right now. And therefore, the impression of the independent voter is, well, the loud people must represent the majority. And we're going to find out this election. It's going to be very, very interesting.
There's no doubt the eyes of the nation will be watching North Carolina to see if evangelicals have enough punch to make a difference. Right now, the jury's still out. In Raleigh, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Franklin Graham says there is one issue that outweighs all the rest in this election, the future of the U.S. Supreme Court. He emphasized that the next president's choice for a new Supreme Court justice will impact the country for decades to come. Graham called on Christians for a revolution in the nation while visiting Michigan on his 50-state Decision America tour. He also said abortion and same-sex marriage are sins against God and, quote, just because it's the law of the land doesn't mean it is right. Graham wraps up his Decision America tour Tuesday in North Carolina. Pastor Saeed Abedini and his wife Nagme announced they are divorcing. The couple made the announcement Tuesday on social media. Pastor Saeed was one of the 5 Americans released from an Iranian prison in January. He was jailed for sharing his Christian faith with Muslims in Iran. Information about trouble in their marriage surfaced just before he was released from prison. His wife Nagme says Saeed rejected counseling for anger and abuse and filed for divorce. Abedini says the divorce from his wife will not diminish his commitment to Christ or his goal to preach the gospel to Muslims around the world. Both Pastor Saeed and Nagme are asking for your prayers. The European Union has given a new mandate to British media. They're asking members of the press not to report on the Islamic religion of terrorists because there has been an increase in hate speech and racist violence in the country against Muslims. The European Commission Against Racism and Intolerance released an 83-page report that says the media coverage, quote, shows a reckless disregard not only for the dignity of the great majority of Muslims in the UK, but also for their safety. Coming up, they are ordinary people fighting to survive in the face of the ISIS onslaught. Chris Mitchell takes us to the trenches of the war zone in Iraq. ISIS is losing ground and momentum in Syria and Iraq. Now the biggest battle so far is about to begin. U.S. and coalition forces are planning a major push to take back Mosul, Iraq's second largest city. ISIS has held it for 2 years, and as CBN's Chris Mitchell reports from the front lines, losing Mosul would cost the Islamic State in more ways than one.
One of the main forces in the liberation of Mosul will be the Kurdish military known as the Peshmerga. This is the frontline positions of the Kurdish military. It's about 400 to 600 yards away from ISIS positions, close enough to see an ISIS flag on a hilltop nearby. Beyond that is the town of Bashika, a Yazidi village captured by ISIS. Then the plains of Nineveh, and about 18 miles away is the city of Mosul, the prize in the upcoming military campaign. This modern-day band of brothers are Kurdish Peshmerga fighters from Iran. They're one unit of many on a several hundred-mile front. We joined Dave Eubank from the Free Burma Rangers up on the front.
See those buildings right down the valley?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You see the road bends to the right? They've come up to the upper bend and assaulted around that corner, which is about 300 yards away.
Sitting behind sandbags, we talk with Eubank about the Kurdish military.
The Kurds are on the front line. They're on 10-day rotations. That means if you're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, soldier or not, you come here. Because if you don't, ISIS is going to be in your house.
These front lines are lands written about in the Bible.
In this particular spot, we're looking at Nineveh, Bashika, then Nineveh, where Jonah was. And people don't change that much throughout history. We all need God. And in Jonah's time, the Ninevites were doing their own terrible things, but they repented. So that's my prayer for ISIS, for myself, and for ISIS to repent and follow God's way.
Just a short drive away, Commanding Officer General Bahram told us what lies ahead for his troops.
Our situation is very good because the Peshmerga are in a good position. And also the Kurdish people are helping us a lot. And the coalition forces are standing with us.
He won't be alone. Military leaders from several European nations met with the general. This German commander told us how the Europeans established a center to train the Kurdish Peshmerga and prepare for the Mosul offensive. They'd need not only training, but a morale boost. Helping with that need is Sister Peshmerga, who comes to the front lines to encourage the troops. She also delivered a message to the world.
I want to say, please, we need help. Bring the gun. We need the help. Bring the good things for the Peshmerga, because we fighting, Peshmerga fighting to all the world.
Eubank says the battle is between freedom and tyranny.
Down there is oppression, darkness, and death. Here is light, freedom, and movement. We all just came here. Nobody stopped us. We came all the way here. We can go back. You can do whatever you want tonight. You can leave the country if you want. You can stay. You can't do that there. You will dress this way. You will talk this way. You will pray this way. And you will stay until we tell you.
Yet life on the front lines means daily harassment by ISIS with mortar attacks. 2 mortars just hit. One was about 300 yards away. Another was about 500 yards away. This is fired by ISIS at a village just over the ridge here. And this happened yesterday. A Peshmerga fighter was killed just in a position we were just a little while ago. So this is what happens most every day here in the front lines. It's an attack reminiscent of the trench warfare from World War I. This Kurdish commander showed us the number of mortars shot at his position. Eubank says the U.S. presence makes a difference.
3 very positive things the U.S. presence does here. One is we help stop ISIS and defeat them. Second, we save lives. The third thing is our presence creates an environment and a possibility and the conditions for people to talk together that normally wouldn't.
He also says prayer makes a difference.
And my 3 prayers are ISIS would be stopped, Kurdistan would be free, and the hearts of all enemies would change to follow Jesus.
Many other Christians are praying too, like Milad. He fled his home 2 years ago when ISIS captured his village, just a few hundred yards away from the Kurdish front lines.
Pray for us and ask Jesus to help us to go back and pray in our chairs.
His prayer could be answered with the success of this key military campaign. The battle for Mosul will include a number of forces, including these Kurdish fighters from Iran. Some reports say that the offensive will take place sometime in October, but it's been postponed before. Whenever it comes, it represents the next major phase in the war against ISIS. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, on the front lines with the Kurdish Peshmerga.
Up next, how CBN Superbook is giving some kids superheroes they really can look up to. Children love superheroes. That is one reason Carrie and Neil Rosima were drawn to CBN's animated series Superbook. They wanted their sons to have the ultimate role model for their superhero. And that's exactly what they got.
With a growing family, Carrie and Neil Rosima are careful about what their sons watch on TV.
Our children are at the age where they're fascinated with superheroes. And the world will put out superheroes, for one, that aren't real, and for 2, that you can't believe in.
That's why the Rosimas became members of the Superbook DVD Club.
Superbook is a documentary on real superheroes. Jesus is a real superhero. Joseph is a superhero. Every story is about a superhero that has changed the world.
It was like the heroes that they had kind of worshipped before started to become the heroes of the Bible, and Jesus being the big one.
Their oldest son, Judge, agrees.
I like Revelations because Jesus fighted this big snake.
Superbook is more than just entertainment for the boys. With every new episode, they learn more about the Bible.
I think for a child, it makes all the difference in the world to see it lived out and for them to be able to relate. Because I can read them stories all the time, but to have it reenacted and related for children is huge.
I like it because it teaches about Jesus.
It brings the word to life for the boys. And once we read the scriptures, it helps them to kind of get a picture of what we just read.
Carrie and Neil especially appreciate how Superbook reinforces the same Christian values they're teaching.
It helps me be a good boy, and it helps me be a good kid so Mom could teach me everything about it.
When we started watching Superbook in the home, it was like the spiritual temperature in our home just went up through the roof.
With such a young family, Neil and Carrie plan on keeping Superbook around for a long time. And they know that what their sons learn today is preparing them for the future.
What I love about Superbook is it really teaches boys where real power comes from, how to really be men of God.
The values that Superbook teaches my children is how to take biblical principles and apply them to real life situations, to show compassion, to show forgiveness, to show love. It teaches them how to be more like Jesus, and that's the most important thing.
Thank you, CBN, for making Superbook.
Now you and your children can watch entire episodes of Superbook and find great games with biblical lessons. Just follow the links for Superbook at cbn.com. Stay with us. CBN NewsWatch is coming right back. Every day is the perfect day to be grateful. With that in mind, it is time for your Thursday Thankful. I hope you will join me in this prayer of gratitude. Lord, thank you for always meeting me where I am. Even in my moments of doubt and fear, you are near, and you are always waiting for me to recognize your promise is always so much greater than my pain. To that prayer, I say amen and amen. Be sure to make this a thankful Thursday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make it a thankful Thursday. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.